Hello, everybody, and welcome to another episode of Let's Talk Broncos. I am sitting here with my good pal, Zach Seegers. Zach, how are you doing today, my man?
I'm doing good. I'm excited to be here. I'm excited to talk some Broncos. Training camp is in the air. We've got new uniforms
It's
coming
crazy.
tomorrow. There's stuff happening. We've got players in trouble. We've got positive injury news. Unfortunately, some negative injury news. It's a full show. I'm excited to be here with you, Joey.
Dude, it is a full show. We have a lot coming up. And you know what, Zach? You kind of alluded to the new uniform. So I want to ask you, how optimistic are you that these Broncos helmets will be cool? Me personally, not very much. So I'm interested in your answer here.
I'm not a ton either because I think it's pretty reliant on if they change up the uniform. Right now they have to wear. I've been missing some of the rules on a prior podcast episode. They will have to wear it with the color rush, it seems. So white helmet with that bright orange color rush, you can find mock-ups out there. It does not look great. It does not look really good.
You could
because
find
that color rush
50,000 mock-ups, by the way, and all 50,000 look bad.
But like the color rush is just so bright
Yeah.
orange. There's so much orange, so much of it head to toe that I think you need to change up the color rush. Have an all white color rush, like have it be a throwback thing, kind of like the current one, but just all white. And then I think it could look pretty cool. But I think the new uniform is a necessity, and I think it's fairly unlikely. So I'm not all that optimistic, unfortunately.
Yeah, I don't know if anybody's been paying attention to the new uniforms that have been coming out. Now, the takes on the classics have been money. Those have been amazing. I'm happy with those. The Seahawks one, right? But those are just the old uniforms that they're bringing back. The new everything that they've released sucked to me. I don't like it. So I'm not very optimistic. It's going to be much like the Broncos just in general. You're probably better off preparing for the worst and hoping for the best is the way I would say it. That's kind of my advice to everybody. But Zach, there's other Broncos news, and it's for the fans. Guys, wake up tomorrow morning, half off tickets tomorrow, starting at lowest at $15. And that goes for every single home game of the year. They're going to have tickets available tomorrow, which is a crazy
Get in the
deal.
lines.
Yeah. I mean, even when the Broncos are bad, we know how much those tickets go for. They're never cheap. Never. So if you guys want to go and get those, please, I think it's on Ticketmaster tomorrow. Make sure you're doing all your research to get those. And then, I just wanted to throw that out there before we got started. And let's hop right into the news, Zach.
I'm excited for it. We've unfortunately got some news today, Joey.
Awazarike. Zach, known hater of Awazarike. Listen, known hater. Hasn't liked him since the beginning. But are you a hater if you are correct? I don't know. Because Zach has been predicting that Awazarike, he didn't like the draft pick from the beginning. And, this one's kind of unfootball. It's not football related, but it still kind of makes you right in the situation. Awazarike got caught gambling, and he's out for a minimum of 1 year. So I think that is not good. I don't know what all these NFL players are doing gambling on the sport, but break it down to me in football, Zach. What does this mean for the Denver Broncos this next season?
It's not good. It's not good. I wasn't super optimistic about what Awazarike was going to bring to this team, but he was going to have to step up into a big role. Yes, they brought in Zach Allen to replace Draymond Jones, of course, filling maybe the biggest hole or patching the biggest hole on that defensive line this offseason. But they never addressed the loss of Deshaun Williams, who I believe played the second most snaps of anyone on that defensive line last year.
Right.
Awazarike played 165 snaps his rookie season. That was going to climb considerably this year. I bet he was expected to play 400 snaps. And I think that's fairly conservative. It might be more than that. You consider there's 1,100, 1,200 snaps in a given season, and he was going to be one of the very first Broncos off the bench. It's killer. The other aspect of this is he's a pretty old rookie. He entered the league as an old rookie. He's currently 25 already, which is crazy. you worry about his development propensity for development at that point in a player's career, anyways. Or kind of these prospect guys, these guys that need development before they're solidly in the NFL. And this isn't going to help any. This is a year he's not getting reps. The next time he's going to be stepping onto even an NFL practice field is July of next year. Like, he can't do OTAs next season. That's part of this. He's done in Denver. That's almost certainly. Every other player to face this suspension hasn't played another snap for their team. They've all been cut except for Calvin Ridley, who was traded, and Uwazurike is no Calvin Ridley. He, I think, is probably going to be cut in the next month here.
Yeah, I would agree with you, Zach. It is worrisome. Here is my thing. I guess it's not really worrisome because what were our expectations for Uwazurike to begin with? That would be kind of my take there. It's just like
they picked him in the 4th round.
They picked him in
the 4th round.
I mean, Zach, you said it yourself. You weren't a big fan of that 4th round pick.
I wasn't, but he was slotted for a fairly big role. They put faith in the guy. I wouldn't have, but
that's what
getting
I'm saying.
This little return on the investment's trouble.
Totally. But if I'm standing by the Zach Seeger's take of how he was as a player, and if I'm even going off of last year's film, I don't think he should have been playing this next year. I don't think he was a player that we want on the field next year unless he took massive steps forward, right? I don't think he should be filling in actual snaps. Just his football is just how he is as a football player right now. So maybe if I'm looking at this from a half glass full perspective, this kind of lights a fire under the Broncos' butt and says, hey, we need to go sign a vet to fill these snaps. And I think that would be better for the team just in general than if he didn't get suspended, if I'm just being completely honest here. So I don't know. Maybe Shelby Harris is back. Matthew Iodonis is still available. There's some guys in that interior defensive line group that could be signed for the Broncos and make them a better football team.
Yep, I think that's a great point, Joey. It could end up being for the best. One aspect that sucks, though, is Uwazurike was the other asset the Broncos got in the Russell Wilson trade.
Yeah, it
was Russell Wilson and Uwazurike, and this result only makes things uglier. You were hoping you'd eventually get something out of Uwazurike on that rookie deal that made it look a little better. This is about the worst case scenario. Joey, do you have anything else on Uwazurike?
Just that I guess it's a little disappointing. I mean, that draft pick, it already feels like it's done. It feels like it was a bad pick right now, and it's his sophomore year. And that's not the way you should feel about these guys going into their second year. They should either be unknowns, guys have showed some promise. You shouldn't just be completely out on a player like I am Uwazurike right now. If you were to evaluate his first year, 2 years in the NFL, I mean, you would have to give it like an F. It just went literally terribly. Last year, barely showed any signs of being really good. And then this year, he's not even going to get the opportunity to play. And it's stupid. And now I'm looking at a football player, Zach, if I'm going to be honest with you, and maybe I'm being harsh here, but it's the truth. You're looking at a player that didn't show that he's very good in the NFL level, and then also that he's not cut for it mentally. like you're just looking at both aspects of that. That's not a player you want on your team.
No, and this is some of these suspensions I'm sympathetic with. They're weird rules where you're allowed to bet on certain things, but you can't do it inside the team facility. I think like Jameson Williams got dinged for something like that. That's why it's only 6 games.
Yeah, 6
that games. I have some sympathy for. Like those situations where it's like these are new rules. The sports gambling thing is new for all these NFL players. There's been a lot of players saying that they weren't necessarily clear on the rules. Those mistakes I have some sympathy for. You got to know that betting on NFL games is against the rules. Like that is rule number 1. Like even if you got mixed up on some aspect, there's no way you didn't get mixed up on like the betting thing. And also you're going to get caught. You're going to it's not hard for NFL teams to or these sports books who don't want this stuff to be happening either, to recognize an NFL player's name.
Yeah, the one where you
and
have
go,
to literally turn all your information into. I've signed up to get like online gambling things where they give me a call after and want to get more information, as you're signing up for them. It's just so stupid. It's like you're turning
I
yourself
bet they
in
have
right off the bat.
software. I bet they have software that combs for these names.
Right.
Like
No, exactly.
it's so stupid. Like you said, it's a questionable, like it's poor decision making.
Yeah, you're looking at a guy with poor judgment now who also didn't show up to play that great last year. So I think his time in Denver's done.
And really is going to be 26 the next time he steps on a football field.
Right.
He'll be 26 with 100 NFL snaps under his belt and a lot of development needed to be a down-to-down player.
Totally. Well, let's move on to the next part here.
Really quick.
Yeah, go ahead.
Whoa, news, exciting announcement. We need to start doing this at the top of the show. Bree Maestas, she's not here. Where is she? She's on Broncos Country tonight. So everyone, if you support our show, I'm sure you love Bree. She won't be with us this week because she is filling in on Broncos Country tonight, 850 KOA. You can also find it online, iHeartRadio. You can find it everywhere pretty easily. You can find it in podcast form too. So she's out doing that. Please go support her. Joey and I are going to be listening after this one, talking about it in the Discord. So make sure you're listening along too. That's all.
Yep. No, thank you for sharing that. I like that. That's very important news. Please go support Bria with Broncos Country tonight. Moving on though to the next part, Broncos injury updates. So we have multiple things going on here. Baron Browning and Kendall Hinton to the PUP list. We have a lot of things going on. Can you just give me your overall what's something that stands out to you during this? What are you worried about?
Yeah, the Kendall Hinton and KJ Hamler stuff jumped out to me. I'm trying to think who are the other players. Shoot, I needed the list right.
Purcell and KJ Hamler, right?
Well, there's Kendall Hinton, Purcell, KJ Hamler, and then Baron Browning. Yeah, Baron Browning and Kendall Hinton were the two that jumped out at me. Yeah, the Baron Browning thing is super concerning. They need help on the whole defensive front. We were just talking about defensive line with Wazirike. Edge rusher needs some help too. There's not a reliable option you feel great about. Your bad beggar to come back. Thank you, Gregory. We do need her back.
We appreciate the support, man.
Appreciate you, Gregory. Yeah, Baron Browning. I think that one's very concerning. They need edge rushing help. There's a chance he's not ready until the second half of the season. That's not going to fly. Pass rusher is the second most important position on a football team, and the Broncos have no good answers there right now. You've got a guy who hasn't played half the snaps in an NFL season before. Baron Browning off this knee injury. Frank Clark, who had, I think, like 3.5 sacks last year. Sacks aren't everything, but he had like 24 pressures. So like, that's not outstanding either. And yeah, it's just scary. Like, you need Nick Benito to take a huge leap. You need something to happen. Sign Yannick Ngakoue. I don't know. The Baron Browning thing's concerning. And then Kendall Hinton and KJ Hamler, I think their injuries, I'm wondering if they're going to be out, because this wide receiver room is so crowded. Bringing in Marquez Callaway, Lil Jordan Humphrey, 2 Sean Payton guys. A very different play style from Kendall Hinton and KJ Hamler, those two. But I kind of think I feel pretty confident KJ Hamler is going to be one of the odd men out, but Kendall Hinton not being ready for training camp makes me think he might be too.
Yeah, no, totally. It's concerning for both of them. To make the team, they're going to have to play like they're not guys that are locks right off the bat. So they're going to have to prove themselves just like all the other wide receivers have to in that. Zach, here's a question for you. You mentioned how big of a need edge rusher is for this Broncos team. What is a bigger need in your opinion, interior defensive line or edge?
Man, probably interior defensive line.
I think so. Too.
I think because you're not probably fixing edge with what's left. Like, the concerns are, do we have a reliable, like down to down option. And I don't think they do right now, but I don't think the options available on the market are fixing that. Ngakoue might help shore some things up. But I don't know if that's fixing that. They just need some bodies at defensive line, or along the defensive line rather. Ioannidis and Shelby Harris, like you said, those guys aren't going to change the world for you on the defensive line, but they can eat up some snaps. They can be non-disasters. And I think people underrate the value of not having disasters. Like the Bengals offensive line, they didn't necessarily go from like a bunch of bad players to a bunch of great players. They went from a bunch of bad players to like a bunch of okay players, because that's enough. That is enough. Just make it not horrific.
Yeah, no, totally. I mean, I agree with you. I think it's interior defensive line. Gregory, who just roasted both of us, says Shelby Harris. And Gregory, I agree. I think Shelby Harris would be a great signing for the Denver Broncos. I mentioned Matthew Ioannidis earlier as well. There are still some interior defensive line guys out there that even with a Owazarike in the lineup, I would have liked to see them sign. They need a vet behind these guys, someone that can go out there and you at least know what they're bringing. That's a big thing for me. Zach, are you ready to move on to the main part of the show?
Yeah, I do got to say, just to loop it into our uniform thing, the Broncos Twitter account just tweeted out a teaser. Alt helmet drops tomorrow. I don't think we're getting a new color rush jersey. I think we're getting solid white on full orange. I'm concerned about how this is going to look. Hopefully they don't wear it a whole time.
Yeah, no.
The helmet on its own might be nice. I think the helmet on its own might be nice, but the all orange and then white, it just doesn't look good. Yeah, I'm ready for the main bit now, Joey.
Perfect.
No more fashion talk.
No more fashion talk. We are going to be talking the biggest, the main part of this show is going to be what Broncos are set for big bounce back years. Who might be some of those comeback player of the year type of players on the Broncos this next season? And, Zach, there are some interesting ones out there. You have two in there in the graphic. Thank you, Zach, for setting up the graphic. We have Russell Wilson, Tim Patrick. Who do you think is the biggest or most likely name to be one of those guys?
I'm excited for this one. I'm throwing people a curveball, and I'm going to say some nice things about Russell Wilson tonight.
Whoa.
Yeah, I think the big question for me, and I want to keep reiterating this because I came out so strong on the cutting Russell Wilson thing, and I do still think that's the right strategy. But it's because I don't think he's going to live up to the elite money. It's not that I think he's going to be just as bad as he was last year. I think he's going to be considerably better. I just don't know, like in 2025, currently he has the third highest cap hit of any quarterback in the NFL. Right now, do I think he's going to be the third best quarterback in 2025 or even all that close to it? No. So that's where my issue is and why I think you should move on. Now the positive.
He had to
stuff.
Throw that in there. He had to do.
I had to because I want people to know where I stand. Well, because I don't want people to think I'm contradicting myself. I still believe in the cutting thing, but I do think he's going to be a lot better this year. Okay.
So you're pretty much
overall.
Zach's pretty much saying he was so bad last year that it's impossible for him not to be better.
That's part of it. That's part of it, but it's not just like a little like a slight incline. I think we're going to see a big leap here. I think just outside the top 10, like 15 to 12 range. Okay. So overall last year, right, he ranked 29th in EPA CPOE composite out of 35 qualified quarterbacks, 27th in EPA per play, and 31st in success rate. So EPA, we're kind of looking at what that quarterback's producing. Success rate, we're kind of looking at how consistent it is, how reliable it is. So very up and down. We're looking at a high degree of variance there and also not being very productive. But over the final two games, when you got Justin Outen in there, he ranked 15th in EPA CPOE composite, 12th in EPA, and 20th in success rate. So not mind-blowing, but he was like a functional middle-of-the-road quarterback. I'm including the success rate in there because we remember some of the big plays of those final 2 weeks. The big like 20, 30-yard scramble for a touchdown against the Chiefs he had. The bomb to Jerry Jeudy against the Chargers. That was the best play he had all season, right? So that might cause the EPA to be a little unfairly inflated, something that we don't expect to happen game over game. But the success rate improving by that much shows that we saw a lot more like down to down consistency as well. He was a lot better once you got Nathaniel Hackett out of that system, and you still adjusted out and running a pretty broken offense. They didn't tear things down to the studs and rebuild it. Like, it was still Hackett's offense. Alton was just calling the plays and setting up the game plan that week. It's going to be miles better with Sean Payton. They still couldn't line up properly in week 18 when Russell Wilson was like playing like a middle of the road quarterback.
We were still counting down the clock, Zach.
That's right. We were still counting down the clock. They lined up. Here's another crazy thing. The Broncos lined up in shotgun at the 10th highest rate in the league on first down last season. They had the 13th highest pass rate and the 16th highest pass rate over expectation, which is factoring in down to down situation. So in other words, they were a very pass happy team. That is not how Russell Wilson has thrived in his career. He has thrived when he gets to operate off of a strong run game, and the Broncos were very pass happy when that was really not their bread and butter. I think Sean Payton's not going to allow them to be that. I think he's going to understand that Russell Wilson should be playing more under center. It shouldn't be shotgun stuff. I don't care if that's what he's more comfortable at. He's considerably worse at it. Man, you are better when you're uncomfortable, if that's the case. So we are going to put you in a situation where you have some discomfort and you're going to operate under center because you're way better at it. And we're going to run the ball a lot more because when that happens, you're a way better quarterback. And Sean Payton knows how to do that, and he has the power to put on those guardrails. So I think we're going to see a really nice bounce back here from Russell Wilson, although I question if he's going to be worth the contract.
Okay. Well, this is an interesting take. I do have to say, I'm happy, Zach, that you want to put Russell Wilson in your bounce back players of the year. You know what I mean? Make the fans happy. But you also have to mention that you don't think he's worth the contract and you would still cut him. Very interesting take. No, I respect it, though. I respect it. I also think that Russell Wilson will have a bounce back year. I think that it might end up being the perfect situation for him. Deep shots, run game. I think Sean Payton is going to tailor make this offense around where Russell Wilson does best. I really do think that. So I'm excited to see it, and I do think he'll have a bounce back season as well. My pick is going to be Nick Bonito. Is going to be a player that will have a big bounce back season.
I like it.
So something I think everyone's looking at him wrong. If you thought that Nick Bonito at any point was going to be a down-to-down edge rusher, you were looking at him wrong the entire time, guys. That was never, ever what he was going to be. Everyone was talking about him. He was just never going to be that. He is a situational pass rusher. That's what he is. That's what he came out of college being. When you go look at scouting reports of Nick Bonito when he came out of Oklahoma, what did it say? He's a situational pass rusher. And then all of a sudden he was drafted by the Broncos, and we want this guy to be a dominant run stuffer. We want him to do all these things. That's not even why the Broncos drafted him in the first place. So all I'm expecting from Nick Bonito is for him to be able to come in on third downs and be more productive in the passing game. Maybe even Vance Joseph can get creative with him, as he seems like he loves players like this. Another thing Nick Bonito can do pretty good for an edge rusher, he is really good dropping back and playing the pass. He can drop in his zone. He can do all that different type of stuff. He's kind of a hybrid in between of an edge rusher and an inside linebacker. He's like the opposite version of Drew Sanders, the guy we just drafted out of Arkansas. It's like the edge rusher version of Drew Sanders who plays inside linebacker, right? So yeah. I think that as long as he comes in there and improves his pass rush, which if we're only looking at it from that aspect, I don't see why that's impossible. He'll have a big bounce back year.
I think that's very possible. He's going to be asked to, at the very least. I don't know if he will, but he is going to have ample opportunity. With Randy Gregory coming back from serious injury, not being super reliable, Baron Browning missing time, as we've already discussed earlier on this show, they need Nick Bonito to step up and bring some heat off the edge. So that's a concern.
Zach, I'm curious if you have anything to say about Gregory's comment right here. He says they weren't in shotgun because Russ wanted to be. They couldn't block for the run or the pass. They're not going to run the Seahawks offense. They will run Sean Payton's offense. Do you have anything to respond to that?
I don't think shotgun's like inherently better pass protection. Like, I don't think that's inherently more secure. I don't think it's like, oh, we can't protect the quarterback, we have to run everything out of shotgun. Like, I think there's honestly, like, moving the pocket, the play action stuff, boot stuff that we know, like, it's already proven with data helps the quarterback. It's easier, and also helps specifically Russell Wilson, is easier to get to out of under center as opposed to shotgun. So I don't think that's the reason. I think it might be what the teams. I wouldn't be surprised if Hackett said that at some point this year. But coaches often say things that frankly don't make sense, and they just expect that they won't get called out on it. I've seen it plenty. Remember, Pat Shurmur told us he was practicing interceptions.
Right.
Or not interceptions, incompletions. He told us he was practicing incompletions. Does that sound real? Or do we think the quarterbacks were just bad that day and he came up with a lie to make it not sound so bad?
Yeah. No,
I'm going to go with the latter.
Okay. Well, Wayne says, and I want your opinion on this. He says Tim Patrick, I think, will come back strong, especially after making it back this quickly. What are your takes on Tim Patrick? What are the likelihood that he can be one of these players that has a huge comeback year?
Yeah, I love that. He was my second choice. I was between Russ and him. I went Russ because I wanted to break trends a little. Keep some love on Russ, do some research for some positive Russ stuff. But Tim Patrick, I think, is going to have a great bounce back year too. He isn't at that 18-month mark that we really like to see with the ACLs, but he is more than 12 months removed from the injury, which is, again, more than we're used to. That lines up well for him. He is a textbook Sean Payton receiver. I think I jokingly made like a Michael Thomas comparison on a show a couple weeks ago. And like, no, he's not going to be Michael Thomas. Michael Thomas's production under Sean Payton was absolutely absurd. Yeah. But like, I think they're similar stylistically. Again, lesser version, but big body. I think an underrated route runner, good athlete, really strong hands, powerful at the catch point. And yeah, was Russ his receiver all through training camp last year, and well, until the injury, of course. And all the insider reports this year are suggesting that he's been the go-to target once again. I still am putting my chips in the Jerry Jeudy basket, but Tim Patrick, I think, is comfortably the number 2 pass catching option in this offense. Really, it's those three it's those two and Dulcich, and then a hefty drop off to my next favorite weapon.
Yeah, I've said this part, Zach, on here a million times, but when you're just reading the tea leaves, or reading in between the lines of what's been going on, Tim Patrick has been getting a lot of hype from people connected to the Broncos, like James Palmer and Mike Kliss. These guys are saying that Tim Patrick is, and Ben Albright, they've all been unanimously been saying pretty much that Tim Patrick's the best wide receiver on this team. What can I say about Courtland Sutton and Jerry Jeudy right now? That they were almost both traded this offseason? What does that lead you to believe, guys? I think Tim Patrick is really in for a big year. And if he isn't, it's because he couldn't do it. That's my take. I think they're going to try to feed him the ball. I think that he's going to be that guy on there. So, yeah, I don't know. I love that take, Wayne. And also, Wayne, haven't seen you in the chat for a little bit. Happy to have you back, man.
Happy to have you back, Wayne.
Frankie is in the chat, bringing up Samaje Perine. Just a little off topic. He says Samaje Perine is Pierre Thomas, and that's a great comp. I love that. In the Sean Payton offense, I love that take.
Yeah, that's a good comp.
That's a really good comp. So I have one. I'm going to go with another edge rusher, and I'm going to go Randy Gregory. Do I really believe this? No, because injuries will probably set him back if I'm looking at everything. But guys, if
he's a good candidate. He's a good candidate for it.
Yes, because
if it breaks right, healthy, he will.
If he just stays healthy, we're good. He is going to be the guy. It's just that plain and simple. He's an elite talent. Randy Gregory is one of the most talented players on this football team. I mean, how many more talented football players can you name on the Broncos? There's really not a lot. When you look at size, physicality, speed, jumping ability, everything that goes into just talent, that stuff that you can't teach, Randy Gregory has all of it to go along with the motor and all this other crazy stuff. We got to see him firsthand at the beginning of last year. He was right next to Patrick Surtain as the best player probably on the Broncos, just in general. So all it really comes down to is health. How likely do you think it is that he is that Randy Gregory is that comeback player, Zach?
I don't know how likely it is. Frankly, we don't know if it's possible. We don't know if Randy Gregory's body can hold up to. I mean, edge rushers rotate, but what, a full season, you want him to play at least 800 snaps.
Right.
He's never hit 500 in a season before. His body is broken down from injury, unfortunately, consistently around 400 or so.
Right.
It's kind of maxed out at that point. I hope I'm wrong. I really hope I'm wrong. I loved what Randy Gregory brought to the Broncos last year. I loved the first half of the season when I was saying I was wrong on Randy Gregory. I didn't like the offseason signing, but he's playing like a defensive player of the year candidate right now. I liked that period of time. Also, being in the Broncos locker room, Randy Gregory is one of the most likable dudes in that locker room. Very funny, a good sense of humor. Like everyone in that locker room really likes him. Good personality. I really want him to succeed, but he's played I can't bet on it at this point. If he stays healthy, he's going to be the biggest bounce back player on the Broncos. I feel confident in that because the talent is there, but I am not confident he can stay healthy, unfortunately. I hate to say it.
What I can say confidently, Zach, is that there is no podcast rooting harder for Randy Gregory. I want him back and playing so good. I just love the person. I love the football player, everything about Randy Gregory. But Zach, do you have one more you can give us comeback type player of the year?
Yeah. Let me come up with one here.
I got one.
You go first. I'll follow you.
Okay. Quinn Miners. He's going to have
that was my guy
year this next year. I think Quinn Miners is tailor-made for the Sean Payton offense and what Russ is best in. I think when I look at all the situations, Quinn Miners should be fantastic this next year. Who remembers when he had to lose all that weight for an offense we didn't even really run? I do. And he went down. Like, he didn't improve like we all were expecting him to. This is the year he finally is going to do it. Butch Berry's finally out. Who remembers the Butch Berry stories? Zach, do you remember the story of Butch Berry and the sticky notes, for example? All this type of stuff. I think that just having a new offensive line coach, having a Sean Payton that is going to run an offense that better fits Quinn Miners, he's going to be dominant this next year. I do think that. I think he's going to be one of the better guards in football, without question.
I fully agree. He was actually one of the guys when I was building this graphic before I threw Tim Patrick up there. I was going to have Quinn Miners. And then, just it's harder to put an offensive lineman on the graphics. I love this pick. He actually, I think should be my number 2 before Tim Patrick because I fully believe it. Anytime this guy has had decent coaching, he's thrived. He's got all the talent in the world. It's just putting it all together. And again, I think he's very coachable because we've seen him progress at rapid speeds before. It just didn't happen, like you said, again, with Butch Berry and the Butch Berry horror stories. We're far enough away from it now that I think I can probably start trickling out some information on this. Through people that know, Quinn Miners could not stand Butch Berry. I think Quinn Miners had, or I shouldn't say Quinn Miners couldn't stand him. Take that back. Quinn Miners. The whole line couldn't, but Quinn Miners was especially upset with the situation, I think would be the right way to put it. I don't know if it was a personal Butch Berry thing, but the way things were going down was especially upsetting for Quinn Miners. It was especially hard for him. I think he was especially tried by that situation. And I don't think anyone's going to benefit more, and everyone will benefit a lot. I don't think anyone's going to benefit more from Butch Berry getting out of the building and Zach Strief coming into it. I expect a huge leap from Quinn Miners this season, and Brandon Thorne does too, who I think is the foremost expert on offensive line play, at least as far as the media is concerned. Dang, honestly, that really would have been mine.
Zach, let me ask you this then. If you could put all your chips on the table for one of the
players... went mute. Joey, you went mute.
No, I'm not.
You didn't? I can't hear you. Is the problem me? Maybe it's me. Sorry.
Okay. Can you hear me? I don't know.
Yeah, I can hear you now. Sorry.
Okay. No, you're all good. You put all your chips on the table for one of the players we listed, Zach. One of these players, who is the Broncos comeback player of the year? Is it your first option, the guy you said, Russell Wilson? Is it Quinn Miners? Is it Tim Patrick? Who would you say is the guy this next year?
Man.
Cortland Sutton's a guy that you could throw out there. There's Javonte Williams, another one.
Tim Patrick would be my third. I still worry about the ACL. Cortland Sutton scarred me with that. I worry about the ACL until I see the player playing on it. So he would be my third. It's really tight between Quinn Miners and Russell Wilson for me. I really think Quinn Miners will do it. He's young. I don't know enough about Zach Strief. I know more about Sean Payton. I might go Russ. I might go Russ 1, Miners 2, Tim Patrick 3. I really think it's hard for me to imagine Russ is that bad or even close to that bad again last year.
So I'm going to flip this around, Zach. I'm going Tim Patrick as my number one. I've just heard too much about what these coaches think about Tim Patrick.
I love it.
And it just sticks in my brain. Why are they this confident? What do they think? And I know one thing about coaches, just having different coaches.
Oh, Benito would be my fourth. I forgot Benito. Sorry, Joey. He would be
all good. Benito would be your fourth. Okay. I'm going Tim Patrick number one. That's my number one, guys. I just heard too much about how good he is. And then I've heard too much worry about the other two wide receivers. Literally almost traded. Cortland Sutton was almost a New England Patriot and Baltimore Raven and all this other stuff, right? Tim Patrick was never in consideration for this type of stuff. And all we've heard is him being talked about as the favorite. So I'm going Tim Patrick. That's my number one. Yeah. But Zach, anything else you'd like to add to the pod before we sign out here?
No, I feel great. Go check out Bree Maestas, Broncos Country tonight. Yeah, she's going to have a great show for everyone. I think it's 8 to 11, 850 KOA. Google that. And then, yeah, go subscribe to Let's Talk Broncos. Make sure you do it before August. Seriously. Yeah, Let's Talk Broncos YouTube. We'll talk more about that. But yeah, that's about it. Joey, what do you have?
All right, just follow me at JR Drafts on Twitter. That's all I really have going. And just, yeah, like Zach said, go subscribe to the Let's Talk Broncos YouTube. I have some really fun content that'll be coming out there, I think, soon. So that'll be super, super fun. I can't wait for it. Yeah, that's all I really have. And until next time, guys, go Broncos.